Good morning. The Yoga of Relationships by Isabella Viglietti, Chapter 9. Stages of Seeking Love. Let me see. About relationships, my wise husband often says that the best qualification for a good relationship is the absence of the desire for a relationship. So I think I just saw somebody coming here. We're reading chapter 9. I just started Stages of Seeking Love. About relationships, my wise husband often says the best qualification for a good relationship is the absence of the desire for a relationship. Before we get to solutions, let's look at the stages that relationship seekers need to work through on their way to transpersonal, non dual love. We can't call the stages of seeking options, because options are only options if you know they are available and are qualified to experience them. Obviously, if you're not aware that there's an option to romantic relationships, your only option is to pursue one, which is not always where you need to go. Once you have assimilated the lessons of romantic love and start developing objectivity about intimate relationships, the next stage appears. Only when you mature can you look back and formulate your love journey in terms of options. Obviously, maturity is not an option, it happens or not. Stage 1. Stars in my eyes. The word desire comes from an old French word which in turn came from the Latin desiderare. Cedar is star, because most desires are unattainable, like the stars themselves. When the stars fall, however, they appear to come closer to us, and so it seems that desire meets us halfway, which accounts for the belief that shooting stars fulfill our desires, a sweet little fabrication that hardly meets our need for love. If I'm convinced that love is an object oriented experience, I'm not seeking freedom. I want to be attached to someone. Well, perhaps I want freedom from loneliness, but freedom from loneliness is not permanent freedom. In fact, I can commit to the wrong person and feel lonely forever. Unfortunately, happiness is seldom produced by confused, lonely people who don't know what love is, looking for love from confused, lonely people who don't know what love is. The need for love is not love, and fulfillment of the desire for love is not love, even though it initially feels like it. If we ask for love from someone, our hearts are targets for pain. On the other hand, if the satisfaction of desires is not the road to happiness, what is? We need to ask ourselves why we are chasing happiness when happiness is the nature of ever present I, of the ever present I. Because your subconscious will suppress the warning lights, it is safer to hope passionate romantic love doesn't find you, unless you are prepared for hurt and are capable of a quick rebound. Don't seek this ambrosial elixir. It will turn your life upside down, alter relationships with everyone around you, and compromise your ability to function consistently in harmony with the rules of life. Even self realized people are not immune to its seductions. That's for sure, huh? Life is full of the walking wounded who drank deeply from this cup. If a desperate need for love causes you to cling to an unhealthy relationship without considering self inquiry, It is best to wallow in lonely misery until circumstances wake you up and a dispassion conducive to freedom develops. Fighting and denying this need is futile because the desire for love is built into the very fabric of our being. It's not our fault. We all do battle with it. Most of us have an embarrassing tale or two of regretted romantic peccadillos and truly tragic loves. If romance happens and you can keep it alive for the rest of your life and take care of your duty to the world, you are one in a million. But you should know that worldwide, except for materially successful societies, romantic love is the basis of very few lasting relationships. Did she say? But you should know that worldwide, except for materially successful societies, romantic love is the basis of very few lasting relationships. Hmm, don't understand. This does not imply, however, that there are no successful love relationships in materialist societies. Only that relationships that aren't rooted in eternal spiritual values aren't as fulfilling as those that are. Stage 2. Normalizing the abnormal. Doing the same thing over and over and expecting a different result is caused by a dull mind and is a popular definition of insanity. I call manifesting serially unfulfilling relationships behind the idea of romantic love normalizing the abnormal. If, after many unthinking excursions through this questionable psychological landscape, you assume there is no other option and stick with the loveless relationship, you are ready for the next stage. Stage 3. The gift of disappointment. If you become disillusioned, jaded, and cynical, and shut out love, suffering will continue until something awakens you to the fact that no one else can make you happy. Even if despair does not initiate disciplined self inquiry, it may cause you to question your approach to love. Unbeknownst to you, your suffering is a great gift, as it may break down your ego and set you up to receive help. Stage 4. The need for help. Instead of wallowing in hope, occasionally people get real and seek help. A vast body of literature and an entire industry of professional people has evolved to help pluck the stars from your eyes and teach you how to relate sensibly to the significant other. Whether you wish to salvage a difficult relationship or try again with a new person and a different attitude, it behoves you to pause and take stock. To succeed, you need to objectively consider the similarities and differences of your respective natures, as well as your emotional and intellectual strengths and weaknesses, which, as mentioned previously, is one of the values of courtship. Three energies generate three basic personality responses. You can begin by understanding the three energies governing the field of existence that generate three basic personality types. 1. Sattvic, well-mannered, self-contained, self-satisfied, self-reliant, self-aware, morally upright, agreeable, accommodating people, inclined towards knowledge, pleasure, and beauty, who enjoy solitude and simplicity, and favor a knowledge-centric life infrastructure. These individuals generally have few unresolved psychological issues and enjoy simple lifestyles, although a small minority They are found in the walks of life. 2. Vajasic. Relentless, extroverted type A doers with restless, competitive, intense, needy, power-oriented, dissatisfied minds, prone to constant activity, who favor extremely active lifestyles. This group is driven by desire for worldly success and generates much more karma than it lays to rest, because they are appreciated for their contributions to society. No one questions their sanity, but they are rarely psychologically healthy. 3. Tamasic. Dull-minded, heavy-handed, procrastinating, disorganized, clueless, incompetent, fear-oriented personalities, inclined to sloth and fantasy, who favor dark, loveless environments. Obviously, the characteristics of each group appear in varying degrees within their own category and in other cohorts. So humans are a rich mix of positive and negative qualities, priorities, and values. In general, people consciously or unconsciously associate with each other based on shared priorities and values. But when limerence casts its dark cloud over your discrimination, and the stars start to twinkle in the clear light of day, all bets are off. When hormone-inspired emotions do the thinking, you get what you deserve. Only later does it become clear that chemical compatibility is not necessarily an open gate to relationship heaven. Even if a more reasonable rationale is motivating your choice, starting a family, for instance, ignore personality and value differences at your peril. Therefore, if you meet someone whose values differ wildly from yours, whose basic nature is incompatible with yours, and who has plenty of unresolved karma, don't walk away, run. You will face conflicts plenty, and you can be sure that your lover's unresolved psychological issues will become yours. If you associate love with excitement, you may find the idea that opposites attract sufficient justification for an ill-considered relationship. Hooking up with someone who has a very different nature and lifestyle may be exciting at first, but the novelty quickly fades as differences end up dominating the relationship and become obstacles to happiness. It is safer to choose someone whose nature is compatible with or complementary to yours. Stage 5. The mature person. Age does not automatically confer maturity, certainly not wisdom. A mature person is a reasonably self-aware someone who has learned the rules of life and applies them successfully. If you have good values, a healthy sense of self-esteem, have done some work on yourself, honed your communication skills, and are not desperate for love, you are in a good position to develop emotional intelligence and succeed in love. Secular Karma Yoga Redux. Secular Karma Yoga Redux. Romantic love is infantile because it fails to appreciate we're not in control of the results of our action. Displeasure with what happens or doesn't happen right now, not childhood trauma, is the source of a raft of uncomfortable emotions, anger and depression particularly. Yes, holding on to childhood trauma definitely makes your life miserable, but individuals who didn't experience trauma are quite capable of leading emotionally miserable lives as well. Additionally, many people who suffered childhood trauma lead reasonably happy lives. Life is pain and pleasure, joy and sorrow, woven fine, as the poet says. If you don't understand this simple fact, you will not be happy because you will be constantly rubbing up against a field of life which does not take kindly to your efforts and rubs back. Life, which delivers results, is only interested in what you want as far as it serves the needs of the total. The emotions that happen when your love object fails to give you a good night kiss or fails to meet other expectations are on you. It may not be easy to accept rejection, but sad to say, it's not up to your partner to redeem you because he or she is following his or her innate nature. Nobody came to earth to please you, only to work out their own karma. Karma Yoga takes care of a huge relationship killer, the need for lovers to be on the same page on every issue. The results of your actions may not be up to you, but how you take the results is up to you. You can feel awful, or you can take them with a glad heart. In time, you will accept unacceptable results, assuming they do not contravene the explicit and implicit rules of the relationship, because Karma Yoga makes you appreciate the fact that your significant other is differently conditioned. It is very difficult to practice, however, because you believe that you can't be happy unless your likes and dislikes are catered to by someone else. In fact, you have chosen your mate precisely because you think he or she is best suited to pander to your desires. Love does not obligate you to do what your beloved asks, although it is quite lovely if he or she does. This ridiculous notion doesn't even apply to parents whose love for their children is presumably unconditional, as far as good parents definitely need to firmly and frequently say no to teach children the limitations of desire. The problem, then, lies in the belief that satisfying desires equals happiness. When you get what you want, you naturally love the person who gave it, which pleases them and they love you back. But what happens if your love object's values prevent him or her from giving you what you want? Do you get angry and make an issue? Do you feel rejected, depressed, and question your self esteem? Maybe you believe you're not really lovable after all. Perhaps you think that if your partner loved you, he or she would do what you want. Generally, that only happens at the beginning of a relationship, before you're locked in emotionally, and then the rules change. If negative thoughts arise and you neutralize them before they have a chance to morph into deluding emotions, with the understanding that your love object can only follow the karma that flows from his or her nature and not yours, you are practicing secular karma yoga. If you apply this knowledge consistently when conflicting values produce tension, your attachment to your desires and fears will weaken, taking pressure off your needy mind, and your personality will become light and accommodating, which will definitely enhance your relationship. Karma yoga is love yoga because purifying your likes and dislikes is an act of self love, since it is your likes and dislikes that make you unacceptable to yourself and others. Why? Because you wouldn't desire and fear things if you were satisfied with yourself. Likes and dislikes, an obvious symptom of lack, are emotional lies, because you lack nothing. You have unwittingly been duped by society into believing this lie. Once you start to wean yourself from them, you start to love yourself. Secular karma yoga teaches that life is your friend, something that immature people never understand. Duality generates fear, which is the root of all conflicts. If you're always afraid that you won't get the love you need, you may violate your own values to ensure that a stream of love is flowing your way. Conflict is difficult to remove because it is built into the mind field. A loveless relationship means that neither person is sensitive to the love needs of the other because they are taking care of their own. If you take the Karma Yoga view, which removes conflict, you satisfy yourself emotionally and have plenty of time to be there for the other. If the relationship blows hot and cold, it means that the lovers are intermittently serving each other's love needs. If it's a war zone, both are purposely violating the rules of love, lying, cheating, etc. So the field, your relationship, is teaching you who you are. If everything is hunky-dory, you have your love ducks in line. If you are at each other's throats, obviously you don't. The best a worldly person can do is secular karma yoga, which is a lot. It will definitely bring relative happiness, which will reduce the guilt-inspired tension and stress coming from your side of the relationship. You should feel guilty for trying to manipulate your partner to do what you want, because the only real obligations lovers have is to love. Loving should not be difficult, because love is the nature of the self. If both lovers practice secular karma yoga, so much the better. If only one practices karma yoga, the relationship is less stressful overall, but not ideal. Sacred karma yoga. Sacred karma yoga separates children from adults spiritually because it goes beyond simply surrendering the results of actions to the field. It negates the doer itself. Even with secular karma yoga, materialists' aspirations seldom go beyond the pleasure principle. But sacred karma yoga is mandatory for individuals who want to, But sacred karma yoga is mandatory for individuals who want to progress to self-inquiry and non-dual love. Because your love partner is a great gift from nature, he or she should invoke a sense of wonder that the field of life has manifested as attractive, conscious being, non-separate from life itself, capable of arousing and possibly satisfying your desires, should inspire a sense of devotional service and gratitude. If it does, it tends to increase your attractiveness in your lover's mind. Putting the needs of your partner first creates a relaxed, intimate atmosphere that attracts the mind to the present, not to the future, where the result dwells. So the ritual can unfold in its own good time, increasing the probability of a successful outcome. And even if you don't reach the destination, the tide or the ride itself is enjoyable. The ride itself is enjoyable. This feeling of gratitude should extend to everyone in your life, not just to your special love partner, who is your stand-in for the field itself. Neither of you are ever separate from the field. This knowledge instills gratitude, which drives out fear, because life is your friend. Thus, you treat everyone as you treat yourself, with love and respect. So your lover's behavior should be taken as a gift, because unwittingly he or she is teaching what love is and what isn't. Sacred Karma Yoga is counterintuitive and challenging because it expects you to love your lovers when they are not giving you what you want. Why should I love you when you don't give me what I want? Because to attain non dual love, I need to know who I am. I can't appreciate myself, capital S, when my mind is roiled with fears and desires. Accepting whatever happens in my relationship with a glad heart neutralizes my likes and dislikes. It sets me up for an even higher love, which incidentally only makes my relationship happier. Stage 6. A love for the truth. Vedanta is a yoga of non-dual unconditional love, which is obviously superior to dualistic love, so it is reserved for exceptional people. It expands the idea of a personal love relationship to include all relationships. If you think about if you think about it, your relationship exists in the context of all your relationships. Maybe you think that you have more to gain by applying it to your most important relationship, but every relationship benefits from karma yoga. If all relationships benefit, your love relationship is going to benefit too. At this stage, you have already established that while a relationship may mitigate loneliness and deliver a modicum of pleasure, other dependencies remain. Financial insecurity, children, legal and physical problems can certainly take the edge of relationship bliss. Mature people take the bitter with the sweet and soldier on, whereas certain rare people seek the truth. So, what is truth and love of truth? The truth is discovery of the fact that I am ever free non dual love, which is superior to dualistic love because it doesn't change. From material to spiritual. If your aspirations don't go beyond a happy relationship, you can profitably put this book down now. If they do, keep reading. We lose the worldly crowd here because we are entering a different world, which, for lack of a better word, we can call spiritual. Life isn't spiritual or material, it just is. These words represent two different views of our reason for being alive and coincide with life's built-in duality, the fact that human beings are a mixture of consciousness and matter. Consciousness is the sentient portion, and matter is the insentient portion of each of us. If we identify with the body, we are materialists rooted in duality because we believe that our purpose in life is to serve its needs for security and pleasure. If we identify with the sentient portion, we are spiritualists because we think that we are here to satisfy the needs of our sentient self, which basically needs knowledge, freedom, and love. We want to be free of duality. This mixture creates a confusion about what we really are. Individuals at both ends of the spectrum are basically doubt-free. Either they are totally bound by duality and unaware that they are bound, or they are totally free of it. But most of us are clumped in the middle and exhibit both spiritual and material tendencies. In this stage, you find yourself on a spiritual quest. You're lucky if your partner has similar aspirations, because the energy you formerly spent hunting for love or trying to squeeze love from each other can be profitably invested in self inquiry. Seeking relationships and trying to make them work takes a lot of time, consumes your mind with agitating feelings, and often forces you to go against your inborn nature and the rules of life. Freedom from problems is not freedom from relationships, it is freedom from the need for relationships. Secular and sacred karma yoga share the same point of view about action and its results, but sacred karma yoga is love for life itself, which is appreciated as a conscious entity in its own right. religiously religiously inclined types call it God. In our tradition, we call it Ishvara, a Vedantic term. I don't use the word God much because many good, spiritually oriented individuals reject the concept owing to its association with considerable suffering down the ages. God fearing types usually see God as a bigger, perfect person located elsewhere who stands in judgment of their lives, whereas Vedantins see God as an impersonal, intelligent force, the totality of existence, which includes my small self and its field. Inquirers who understand this are humble because they acknowledge our total dependence on existence. In any case, you become a devotee, a contributor, not a grabber or a antagonist when you appreciate your dependence on life's bounteous gifts. A devotee is tired of trying to game God, complaining when things go wrong. He or she understands that all things being equal, positive offerings receive as much attention from the field as negative offerings. Let's not forget that the field is actually the devotee's own mind, which definitely prefers happy thoughts to unhappy ones, one of which is that there are no mistakes, obviating the need for guilt. At the same time, the devotee is mature enough to realize that fulfilling desires is a zero-sum game, so he or she wants to be free of fears and desires once and for all. Freedom from desire and fear does not imply their absence, only the understanding that they are not real. The fact that a field behaves in a conscious way implies a conscious ordainer. So in this stage, the devotee asks God or Ishvara for the strength to resist his or her desires for objects, in this case a relationship, and takes the emotional disturbance as a gift. If such a person finds himself or herself in a relationship, the relationship has a considerable chance of success, particularly if the significant other is at the same stage, because conflicts are offered on an altar higher than the partner's respective egos. This idea resolves conflicts produced by the fact that honest people come to different conclusions honestly, which is to say that both are right when conflicting points of view surface, which they always do. So why do I need inquiry to discover that I'm not the body-mind and am ever free consciousness, the nature of which is unconditional, non-dual love? Because I'm convinced that I'm a limited, inadequate, suffering little cog in a great machine of life, condemned to conditional loves, a belief which is the basis for all my actions, which produce results in harmony with it. The fruit of inquiry is the knowledge that I am not limited, which reveals my non-dual, ever-free love nature. But it is hard work because it is because it basically in excuse me. But it is hard work because it basically involves unraveling the convoluted ball of self-limiting beliefs and opinions I hold about myself and about life in general. Mhm. Self-inquiry produces harmonious relationships because it eventually negates the desirer or doer altogether. When the mind becomes reasonably conflict-free as a result of karma yoga and subjects itself to the unexamined logic of its existence as revealed by Vedanta, it discovers that it is not actually doing anything. Things happen by the grace of the field alone. The doer realizes it is being done, which completely removes stress. The self-aware lover knows that action cannot take place without all the factors in the field, and that the field is tasked with taking care of our basic needs, secular and sacred. Once I know that outcomes are given, not created by my desires, I see clearly that attempts to exercise control over my love object is futile. Fully accepting this truth helps me relinquish one of the most deeply ingrained and strongest human desires, the need to be loved. If you know that your and your lover's body and mind belong to the field, and that you cannot control what happens, the only other reasonable option is to default to self-love. And the relationship flourishes because the lovers do not need each other to ameliorate their sense of incompleteness. Yes, and the relationship flourishes because the lovers do not need each other to ameliorate their sense of incompleteness. Sin intelligently. Commitment to self-inquiry is always a war with your small self because its desires and fears necessitate compromises. But you have the option to sin intelligently, which is to say that you can express your worldly desires to some degree so you don't become a repressed, frustrated, dry, loveless person. On the other hand, you don't want to become completely attached to the sensations and pleasures that relationships provide, which only prolongs your bondage. So you usually deny, but occasionally indulge your craving for love from outside, knowing full well that no object can give you what you already are. This option is risky, however, because it opens the door a crack to binding desires. It is certainly not an option for immature worldly people, because their desires are so strong they cannot resist them, in which case they can only surrender the results of their actions if they want some relief. Commitment to self-inquiry. A committed self-inquirer knows that the experience of love is real. Something that feels so right must have merit. A self-inquirer also understands that there's only one self, and love is its nature. Just as we cannot meditate on something we don't know, we cannot love something we do not know. Although the love that I am permeates everything, however, I have no clue how to find it. If I do stumble on it, I can't seem to make it permanent. I cannot read a word here. I think it says the no relationship revolution, the no relationship resolution. Longing for love gets us nowhere. If I want to break the back of my longing, I need to make a binding, renewable contract with myself. A no relationship resolution. You're not giving up on love or even on having a relationship at some point. You're giving up on the need for the other to make you happy. If I see someone I'm attracted to, I avert my eyes and do not let fantasies take root. I politely say no to people who come on to me. If you're already in a desire-based relationship, this could cause problems for you. If the relationship causes serious agitation, it will impede self-inquiry. Your options are ending the relationship or taking the karma yoga attitude. Withdrawal from desire-based relationships is probably harder than withdrawal from addiction to drugs and alcohol. You can bet your bottom dollar that temptation will come knocking and you will succumb if you are not vigilant and highly motivated. When you decide to pay the piper for your cravings and the pain of denial comes, you will tend to beat yourself up for being such a fool, but you need to congratulate yourself for your willingness to stand up for your highest value. Appreciating the ugly face of desire gives you the resolve to say no. Every time you say no, it diminishes its hold on you and your self-esteem grows. Desire for the love of others is not your friend. It deludes the mind and encourages it to abandon inquiry. Constantly remind yourself of the pain that drove you to make the vow in the first place. But by far the most helpful advice is proactively develop a lifestyle that conforms to your spiritual values. If you are a worldly person, you need to find positive pursuits, volunteer work, artistic, educational pursuits, etc. If you are spiritually inclined, take up yoga, meditation, and Vedanta. On the bus is the last heading. Yes, on the bus. If you have got this far, you can count your blessings. Board the Vedanta bus. Put down your burden and let it take you to your ultimate destination, non-dual love. In essence, freedom from bondage to your small self-identity. All the teachings boil down to you are whole and complete, pure and perfect, non-dual love, right here, right now, always. At this stage, we cannot, however, trust ourselves to evaluate the truth of who we are, because we don't know who we are. Or if we do, we're not confident in the knowledge. We have beliefs and opinions, which are only based on desire and fear-based interpretations of ephemeral experiences, real and imagined, not on impersonal facts. Excuse me. No. Sorry about that. On the bus. If you've got this far, you can count your blessings, board the Vedanta bus, put down your burden, and let it take you to your ultimate destination, non-dual love. In essence, freedom from bondage to your small self identity. All the teaching boils down to is you are whole and complete, pure and perfect non-dual love, right here, right now, and always. At this stage, we cannot, however, trust ourselves to evaluate the truth of who we are, because we don't know who we are. Or if we do, we are not confident in the knowledge. We have beliefs and opinions which are only based on desire and fear-based interpretations of ephemeral experiences, real and imagined, not on impersonal facts born of rigorous inquiry. We may still be afraid that if we give up chasing relationships, we will miss out on love altogether. We don't feel good or trust ourselves because our ideas about ourselves don't reflect who we really are. To progress, we must first objectively investigate the origin of our thoughts and feelings. So, this is the end of chapter 9. Chapter 9. Trying to remember the title. Let me see. There were stages of seeking love. And the next chapter, chapter 10, is the origin of thoughts and feelings. I'm going to read that tomorrow. So have a good day. Bye.